Hi Internet, I bought a gun. The Tisas Raider. It's a 1911. We got to do some Magnum PI style shooting. Something like that. Hello Internet, welcome back to the channel. This is Stache, where we're occasionally funny, sometimes witty, and we're always about the guns, specifically the budget tier guns, because we are poor, like you. Or maybe not like you. If you're not poor, you're doing better than me. Anyway, this is the Tisas Raider, a faithful, albeit somewhat unfaithful copy of the 1911A1 that was issued to the Marine Corps, the last official 1911 to be issued to any of our armed forces, actually. They brought them out of storage and they dressed them up. I forget the name of the company that did it. I am not a firearms expert by any means, and I am new to the 1911 world. This is actually my very first 1911, and so far I'm in love with it. I've put maybe 50 rounds through it. I literally just took it out of the box, threw the light on it because it has a light rail, and guns that have light rails get lights. And took it out here to see how it runs. And so far, I have been very, very satisfied with the accuracy. I did black out the rear sights just because for the 3-dot sights, having a white in the front just helps my eyes a little bit better. But that's the only modifications I've made to the gun so far. As far as that's concerned, a little bit of information about it. They are made by Tisas, which is a Turkish importer of just a ton of different guns. I mean, they make everything. Anything that can be made that has a patent expired, it's being manufactured in Turkey, I'm sure, along with, you know, Tupperware and 1,000 other things. So this particular model does actually say US. It has the stamp on it. It does say Raider on it, and it does have the address right there. It comes with the G10 style grips, which kind of look like a rattlesnake, which I gotta say has a very positive grip on it. It's very easy to get a good, solid, high grip on it. The beaver tail is nice and high. It does have the Commander loop style hammer on it. It's got Novak style sights front and back. The only real thing that I can say about it that I'm not super happy about is the safety doesn't feel quite as positive when you're engaging it as I would like, but that seems to be a common thing for these guns. It is a Series 70 as far as internals, so if you're worried about that drop safe, just throw a Wilson Combat titanium firing pin, and that should fix most of your problems, but don't go dropping your guns, as they say. Anyway, let's get to shooting it, shall we? And see how this thing fires. And we're getting rained on. So I'm shooting from right about less than 5 yards, just your average engagement distances. I'm going to keep backing up successively and see where this thing tends to wander, but as of right now, it's grouping extremely tightly. So I'm going to go ahead and back up another 5 feet. Oh. One flyer, pretty centered for the most part. Let's go ahead and back up a little bit more. Still extremely centered in the middle of the target. Very snappy. The recoil is nice and heavy, but it's a solid steel frame gun, so handling recoil on this is not too big of a problem. Let's go ahead and load back up and try it one more time. Oh, okay. So we did have a failure to go into battery. Go ahead and show you real quick. Now, I have read that these guns do like to be nice and wet when they run. So let's go ahead and drop the mag. See if we can get that to chamber. So it looks like we've got an extractor issue. Let's go ahead and drop that round out. Same issue. Not looking very good, folks. Could just be a simple matter of the gun being brand new and having just a little bit of those Let's go ahead and look at it and see what's going on here. So as you can see, folks, I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but there is a little bit of nicking right there on the rim of the casing. I think what's going on is these are reloads and they might be slightly out of spec, but it looks like the extractor is just gripping that and not quite engaging all the way. It looks like it's just kind of catching the brass. So we're gonna try, again, load up some fresh mags and see if we get the same problem. I'm just running 230 grain reloads, nothing too crazy. Okay, so we're loaded up with one of the Mechgar mags that comes with it. It's 8 rounds. I don't want to have one in the pipe, so it's just the 8. I'm just going to run some failure drills real quick. Nothing fancy. Oh, another failure to feed. Okay, we're good. Well, we're back at the table now, and I'm going to give a little bit more of my thoughts and opinions of the Raider now that I've shot it for a little bit, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've noticed since owning it and just how the gun feels in the hand. So let's go ahead and break some of these things down. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about was this safety. So one of the things when I noticed when I was out at the range and firing this gun is the safety has an incredibly positive upward and downward motion. I don't know if the mic is picking that up. Let me see if I can get it to. But there is a very positive detent click up and down, which if you're going to be carrying this in any kind of capacity for concealed or for a duty pistol, then you definitely want to be carrying cocked and locked with the safety up, and that I would argue is the way that a 1911 is meant to be carried. You're not really going to do much good to yourself or the people around you if you have to fiddle with the slide or the hammer in a life or death situation, and you may short stroke the action, induce a malfunction, and then you now not only have a paperweight, but you're probably going to end up dead, or other people will. So enough of that. Let's get back to the gun. So safety feels great. Breaking the gun down is gotta be one of the absolute easiest 1911 takedown pins to take out on this one. Maybe I got lucky because I've seen some people complain about how difficult it is. This takedown pin is just very, very easy. When you pull the slide back and you rack this down just a little bit, it will wiggle right out, no problem whatsoever. But while we're talking about taking the gun down, this is something that I wanted to bring up and mention. When you are potentially thinking about upgrading a 1911 in the future, and I'll go ahead and show you right now just to see, I already got it out. It was that easy. Let's go ahead and do this without causing the guide rod to grenade across my garage. Okay, so this guide rod is about 1.5 inches long. What that means for you as the shooter, nothing if you're brand new to shooting, but if you have fired 1911s for any length of time and you know what you're looking at and you know what you like, you'll notice a significant difference between your striker-fired guns and one of these particular guns. This is a 22-pound factory spring, and you could lower this if you wanted to. Again, this doesn't have the dual recoil action that the M45A1 had. So there are conflicting opinions about whether or not that made a difference. It could have just overstressed the action personally. It could have just been a big nothing burger. 1911s are meant to be run not quite as hard as you would run one of your striker-fired handguns. The tolerances on the older models were a lot sloppier, and the M45A1s that the Marine Corps did end up having issues because one day of Special Forces pistol course training would probably be equivalent to what that gun was meant to fire in its entire life cycle. So they did have to overcome some of those problems and figure out how to reinforce them and fix them. So why do I bring up the guide rod? The guide rod on these particular ones, like I said, is quite short. You can see that right here in my hand. If you were to bring this out to a full-length guide rod, say like what Wilson Combat offers or any of the other 1911 manufacturers that have aftermarket parts, this recoil action will be much smoother as the slide travels parallel to the frame and hits that full recoil position. That stress on the spring is going to be less because it has been guided fully by a full-length guide rod. Goes without saying, right? Well, what that will mean for you in terms of shooting is that it's going to have a more predictable recoil impulse. So you will have a much more pleasant experience shooting it, and it will feel a lot more positive in your hand. So that's just one thing I will be upgrading at some point in the future, and I may decide to lighten this up. I have also debated putting a shock buff kit, which is essentially these little polyurethane bushings that go on the base of the guide rod, and they will prevent the slide and metal parts from just prematurely wearing out. Some people say that they don't do anything. Some people swear by them. I would like to try one and see what I think. 45 is a pretty heavy recoil compared to 9mm, so I would like to preserve the gun for as long as possible, even though it is covered by a warranty from Tisas. I just would like to take care of my property. Okay, so we've got it all put back together real quick, and this is going to bring us to the discussion of the trigger. Now, I know the typical break-in period for a gun like this, you typically want to run anywhere from 250 to 500 rounds. Most people, and myself would be included in that category, would not consider a pistol fully broken in until I have crossed the 1,000 round threshold. However, I did notice something about this trigger at this point that I did want to bring up and talk about. So, let's go ahead and rack, and I'm going to show you guys real quick as clearly as I can. Hopefully you'll be able to pick this up. So there is a take up and you hit the wall. And there's a little bit of creep, nothing crazy, but there is some, and then it breaks. Just my gut instinct right now, this is feeling like a 5-pound-ish pull, which is pretty good for a stock 1911. This is where I'm noticing some grit. So on the reset, there's definitely some grossness, like just crap, that is preventing the trigger from returning fully to battery. So if I take my finger off the trigger, you'll notice it wants to jump forward like that. So let's go ahead and fire, reset, and it kind of pops back. It doesn't reset correctly like you would think it should. So more than likely what I'm going to have to do is disassemble this, get to the main spring, clean it, and hopefully there's just some crap and gunk that's in there that's causing that reset to be a little bit sticky. It could also just be new gun things, and new gun things can sometimes cause guns to make weird noises, feel strange, not cycle correctly just because of that break-in period not being met yet. So I don't want to criticize it for that. I just figured that for a brand new out-of-the-box gun, I wanted to demonstrate and show you that that is what is going on. So let's talk about the barrel and bushing fit. It's a 70 series 1911. The barrel and bushing fit is extremely good. If you're not familiar with 1911's, and I have been slowly getting educated on the subject, and I have fallen in love with the platform as a guy who carried Glock and a SIG P320 for a very long time, this is a breath of fresh air for me. Just the weight, the finish, and the feel of it are just superior to those platforms. Now, when you were talking about a barrel bushing, for those of you who don't know, if you're watching this for the first time, the fit between the barrel and the barrel bushing is going to determine your accuracy and your grouping size. So you as the shooter determine a lot when it comes to how the gun is going to group and shoot. there is something to be said about the way that the gun is constructed. You don't want to blame the instrument if you suck, but you also want to make sure that you are starting from a good, solid base point before you try to assess whether or not it's you that's the problem. If you are getting good results with a pistol that you have practiced on and you know is a quality firearm, you should be able to transition that to another with a little bit of training and practice. So the fit between the barrel and the bushing, there is no play whatsoever in that. And disassembling it, I did not show it, but the finish on the inside of the bushing is just, it's been polished. There's no tooling marks on it. There's no scoring from any of the machinery that was used to make the parts. Again, this is steel. There's nothing aluminum about it. And the barrel as well has been finely polished with no machining marks or imperfections that would result from poor manufacturing guidelines. So another big thing to mention is when the gun is cycled, you want to check to see if you can push down on this barrel at the top of the lockup right here. And it does have lugs, so when the slide is in battery and everything is charged and ready to fire, it will lock into those two upper lugs and prevent the barrel from moving at all, which is going to lead to increased accuracy and also a tighter chamber. So I'm getting no play whatsoever in that upper slide to barrel play, which is good. That means that it is a quality made firearm and that the barrel has been properly mated to this slide and lower. Now let's talk about the sear engagement and the hammer. So one thing that you want to check for when you are buying a used 1911, or if you have a 1911 that you just want to check this on, is just push on that hammer and see if you can get it to slip off the sear, which it won't if it is a good 1911 that is made with good quality parts. If you are having a problem with that, say you did a trigger job that you screwed up, I would highly advise you to not try it again, replace the parts with new parts, or take it to a competent gunsmith in your area, because on a 1911, one of the things that can happen is called follow forward. So if we pull the trigger, what can happen is that when you rack this slide and you release it, if your sear does not catch that trigger the way that it is supposed to based off the pressure from the mainspring housing, this hammer can follow forward the slide and detonate around in the chamber, which I should talk about. With the Tisas Raiders, there was a recall for these particular handguns for a very specific serial number range because there was a chance of follow forward on the guns. I have not checked the serial number range on this one. Again, I bought it brand new maybe a month ago, and as such, I'm fairly certain that this one is out of the range of those recalled guns. So let's, one last thing, let's talk about this grip safety. So 1911s come with a grip safety. If you are unfamiliar with what a grip safety is, that's okay. Hopefully if you're new to the 1911 world, maybe I can give you some pointers and send you off to much more qualified people than me. But let's talk about this for just a second. This grip safety is going to be your, basically your secondary safety. So primary being your thumb safety, secondary being this grip. If you have a properly set up and tuned grip safety, you should not be able to pull this trigger no matter what you do until this grip safety is to press, and it will fire. So if we reset, what you are looking for is for this grip safety to be somewhere around the middle point. You don't want it to be fully maxed out because in the heat of the moment, if your life depends on this gun, you may not achieve optimal grip. You could get low on it, you could get off to the side, you could just be in any number of different situations or have to fire it potentially from your offhand, which isn't used to the grip. If that is the case, the last thing you want is for this grip safety to have to be fully depressed before it will release to allow you to fire the gun. So what you're looking for is somewhere in the middle. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this. So I'm just gonna put some positive pressure on this trigger and I'm gonna creep this in. Okay, I felt that, it cleared. And I don't know if you can hear that on the mics. Let's see if I can get it to pick up. Okay, So that right there is what you're looking for, about halfway. And again, I've got some grit on this trigger I'm going to have to clean up. I'm hoping that it's just grit and grime and not something wrong with the trigger itself, but we shall see. But yeah, that's what you're looking for. You put positive pressure on your trigger, you bring that rear grip safety in, and it'll allow you to fire the gun. So let's talk about price point, and let's talk about finally what my thoughts are on the Tisas Raider. So one thing I would like to point out is that for the price, what you are getting in this gun. So the Colt M45A1s, or the models that were available for a brief period of time, I know that you can still find them, but they range in price anywhere from $4,000 upward to $7,000. They are incredibly rare, they're incredibly sought after, and they are historically relevant to the most recent 2 decades of conflict that a lot of our immediate families experienced. And a lot of Marine Raiders are still around that remember carrying these. And they are, as I said, very desirable handguns for historical purposes, as well as just it's 1911. They're 1911s, and people love 1911s, myself included. So what you are getting here is essentially an astronomically cheap gun by comparison. This cost me $650 out the door. I have seen them anywhere from $550 to $600 flat, depending on where you go. If you find one on the used market, specifically at one of your local gun shows or at a pawn shop perhaps, again, you want to make sure that that serial number is within that range for the safety recall, and you want to make sure either that the owner knew about it and did it, or that the shop in question knew about it and also changed it. For instance, I almost picked one of these up the week before I bought this one. It was a good deal, it was $550, but the pawn shop that I went to had no idea that the gun was subject to a recall and had not sent the gun off, and the serial number fell within that range where the follow forward problem was a potential hazard. So I chose to pass on it. That is something that you need to educate yourselves on if you are looking to pick one of these up on the used market. But at $650 brand new, you could hardly make the case to me that it is a bad deal new. As you compare these to, say, the Springfield, I believe it's called the Operator. Those can run anywhere from $700 to $800, and we're just not even going to talk about Kimber or Bill Wilson or any of the other more higher end 1911s that you can run into. I mean, the new SIGs are well over $1,000. So if you're talking about as close as you can get one-to-one replica of a classic American 1911 that was carried in war, I don't think you could do much better than the Tisas Raider. As it is basically a one-to-one clone of the M45A1 with an incredible amount of attention to detail, an incredible amount of quality manufacturing, and the fit and finish and feel of the gun is on par with a number of other extremely high-end 1911s that I have handled and fired over the years. The sights are exchangeable because they are Novak cut. You can send these slides in to get them cut for an RMR or an RMSC if that is what you want to do. Personally, I think that for an iron sights gun, there's just kind of a vibe about 1911s, and I like this particular just look, and I'm going to leave this one alone, and I do plan on carrying it. So I think that's going to do it for my review of the Tisas Raider. Overall, I think it is an incredible value for what it is. I think that you would do well to pick one up while they are still available. So yeah, if you're in the market to pick up a 1911 and you find one in your local shop and you got the extra cash to burn on one, do it. I can't say enough good things about it, and I will be continuing to shoot it and enjoy it for many years to come, I'm sure. Thank you for watching the video. If you found this informative and helpful, please leave a like and a subscribe. It will help me with the algorithm as we continue to grow this channel, and I value every single one of my subscribers. To everyone who's gotten me up to this point, I am so extremely grateful. If you have a 1911, please let me know in the comments down below and tell me a story about one of the guns that you potentially inherited from a family member, or something cool about the 1911 that you particularly have. That's going to do it for me in this video, guys. I will see you guys next time.